There are several reasons why power scaling doesn't work, and I will go over each of them. The first key reason is because the author has complete control over a fight. This means that the direction of a fight is unpredictable. Who makes the first move and what move they will make is not something the audience can accurately predict. The direction of a fight, if a character starts off with their strongest attack, would be much different than the direction of a fight if they didn't. What strategy the characters use and how smart they are in that specific fight is also decided by the author. The chain of events that happen within the fight is also unpredictable. How both characters react to each situation in any specific fight must be decided by the author. Whether or not the characters will hold back based on their personalities is another issue. The character could be overconfident or enjoy a good battle, and characters who are not usually like this could be made that way by the author, but I'll bring that up later. Ultimately, to have a theoretical fight, there needs to be an author making all of these small decisions. These are characters, not real people, so in order for them to act, they have to be written to act. And even if you want to imagine them as real people, no two fights between the same fighters will go down exactly the same way. All of these factors I mentioned will somewhat play a role in determining the probability of the fight, but determining the rough probability of winning between two characters is definitely possible, because you can factor in all of these possibilities and roughly come up with the amount of situations where each character would win. The second key reason why power scaling doesn't work is that the fights happen within a story. For this section, I will mostly use examples from Naruto, but that in no way means that Naruto is the only one to do this. I could pull examples from other stories, but I know Naruto the best, and I would rather keep consistency. So because fights happen within a story, newly revealed skills and abilities can happen to benefit a character in a situation. These could have been learned off screen, or the character could have kept it hidden up until that point. Examples from Naruto include clones being able to take damage, Shinra Tensei and the Kyuubi cloak being able to repel Amaterasu, Rasengan and Chidori being equal at the end of part 1, and Sakura transferring her 100 seal to Obito. An example from JoJo would be Josuke fusing Angelo with a rock. The second issue that arises is the fact that new moves and power-ups can be revealed mid-battle. Characters could have trained for this off-screen, or this could have been a plot twist in the story. Either way, characters gain new abilities during battle. Examples from Naruto would include Version 1 Cloak, Sasuke Curse Mark Stage 2, Itachi Susanoo, his Yasaka Magmata, Night Guy, Sasuke's Hawk, Kirin, Sasuke's Amaterasu, Kakashi Susanoo, Twin Lion Fist, Shadow Strangle, and Avatar Kurama. Examples from One Piece include Gear 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Nine Sword Style, Diable Jambe, and Luffy's Future Vision. An example from JoJo would be Giorno making Bruno's mind move faster than his body. From Bleach, Ichigo's full hollow form, Ikaku's Bankai, Yumichika's True Shikai, Toshiro's improved Bankai, and Kenpachi's Bankai. The third issue is that characters can conveniently forget powers or abilities. This means that during a fight, the author may either forget or not want a character to use a specific ability, so the character ends up not using it. Examples from Naruto include Temari forgetting her summoning during the war, Lee forgetting his gates 3 through 5 against Kimimaro, Gaara and his one-tailed powers against Kimimaro and Deidara, Naruto and Sasuke's summonings in their battles at the end of part 1 and part 2, Kakashi's Mangekyo in part 1, Sasuke's Kirin and Snakes after his fight with Itachi, his Armored and EMS Susanoo after the first usage of each, Naruto's Truth Seeker orbs, and Sasuke not using most of his Rinnegan powers. From One Piece, Zoro still has not used Nine Sword Style since the time skip. From Bleach, Ichigo forgot his hollow powers after his fight with Ulquiorra, and only remembered them against Yhwach. From JoJo, Giorno forgot his Life Shot ability after its first usage. The fourth issue is that the author controls the amount of stamina and magic power of any given character. Characters get tired or run out of magic whenever it is convenient for the direction of the fight that the author wants to take. Stories aren't like RPGs, where each character has a set amount of MP, and each move always takes the same amount of MP. Examples from Naruto include Shikamaru against Temari and Tayuya, Gaara running out versus Sasuke when he fought longer against Lee, and Sasuke versus Deidara. Some moves are said to have a limited amount of stocks per day, but those can be broken mid-battle if the author wants. Chidori had a 2 per day limit, but Sasuke broke it with the Curse Mark's help. Kamui had its limit, and it was broken during the war. Sasuke was even out of chakra against Deidara, and still summoned a snake. From Bleach, Ichigo had a time limit on his Hollow Mask, but he broke it against Grimmjow and Ulquiorra. From One Piece, Luffy's fight against Lucci and Katakuri had him taking huge beatings and getting up every time, even though he had barely defeated Cracker in the same arc from less damage. The fifth issue is that there could be external factors that influence a fight, as I briefly mentioned before. This could be mental or physical. Examples from Naruto include Kimimaro and Itachi being sick during their battles that led to their death. Haku was also holding back in his fight against Naruto and Sasuke. From Bleach, Kenpachi consistently holds back, and Byakuya initially holds back in his fight against Ichigo. In his fight with Grimmjow, Ichigo was distracted by Orihime being afraid of him. From One Piece, Doflamingo and Katakuri initially hold back against Luffy, not using their awakening powers at the start of the fight. The sixth and final issue is that whatever the author wants to happen will happen. If the author wants the weaker character to win, they will pull all stops to have that outcome happen. They can use any of these 5 issues I brought up to influence the fight and make it believable. Next is the third key reason that power scaling doesn't work. In most theoretical power scaling fights that I've seen, rules had to be changed. For example, in Death Battle, the characters are always set to kill, which may ignore whether a character's personality prevents them from killing. Second, many theoretical battles happen within a bubble that is separated from the story. The characters are mentally and physically perfect, and no new abilities can be revealed mid-battle. The writer takes the characters from a certain point in their own story and puts them in their own bubble and has them fight in perfect condition with their current abilities. This is a problem because it's contradictory. The writer was only able to get these characters' abilities or feats, as many power scalers say, from the story, where all the factors from the second key point existed. But now to create this fictional fight, the writer removes all of those factors and writes the fight in a bubble. This might be one of the more convenient ways to create a fictional fight, but like I said before, all fights happen within a story, not in a bubble. All the feats came from the story, not from an unchanging stat sheet with consistent feats. So to write a fight in a bubble with a stat sheet is contradictory to how the fights that the writer is using as a stat sheet occurred. Another issue is that the fights always have a writer. As I said before, these characters can't act on their own. The writer will always have a bias, and the specific actions and reactions that each character has will be determined by the author's bias if they try to write out a specific fight. The third issue would be cross-universe battles. Because the authors of the stories don't and shouldn't account for this, the changes to the rules of the power system would be unpredictable. How energies like chakra, reiatsu, ki, and nen would react with one another can't be predicted. Would they all be treated as the same energy? Would one counter another? Or would they be treated as physical objects to the other energy? There's also the question of elemental manipulation. Can characters from different universes control their opponent's element if they match? Little things like this would need to be taken into consideration to create the most accurate results, but the writer would need to make a biased decision to this open-ended question, thus altering the accuracy of the fight. Finally, I just want to give a couple of battle inconsistencies and author influence from Naruto specifically. Orochimaru is a Sannin with enough body modifications and jutsu to combat a version 2 Kyuubi, but he lost to Itachi by 1 genjutsu and even fears him. Sasuke had Kirin and Amaterasu, but Sasuke didn't use them against B because Kishimoto wanted to show off B's abilities. In Sasuke vs Danzo, Sasuke was allowed to crush Danzo at the start of the fight because Kishimoto knew that Danzo had Izanagi, and he wanted to show it off. Sasuke wouldn't have been allowed to start with such a powerful attack otherwise. In Naruto vs Pain, Naruto's allowed to go all out because we have already seen Pain's abilities. The Pains can be revived, and this is a 6v1. In Lee vs Gaara, Kishimoto wanted Gaara to win, so he did. The chakra consumption of the sand armor was hyped up as a huge weakness, yet Gaara fought for such a long amount of time. But against Sasuke, he runs out of chakra pretty quickly. Additionally, Gaara never fights this powerfully again. In conclusion, determining which character would win in a fight is impossible, but determining who is more likely to win and what are those chances is possible and much more effective. But it will probably never be completely accurate. I actually don't hate any of the points under the second key reason, because they make fights more entertaining and have resulted in some of the best fights. It is also nearly impossible to write a story without using one of these, unless the outcome of the fights is more important than the story to the author, which should never be the case. But I would prefer if authors did a better job at hiding these factors. If character X is going to be character Y, give X the abilities necessary to win when both fighters go all out, and or give Y a mental or physical drawback that weakens them. I only named a few examples under the second key reason to keep this video focused, but I'm sure you get the point. If you got this far, name some examples of the 6 issues under that reason that you've seen in anime or manga. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out my manga for free online. If you enjoy my content, please consider donating to my Patreon. All important links will be in the description.